Well, hey, hello, fellow Thursday clubbers. Welcome to episode 20 of the Sorare Thursday Club flagship show. I am your host, Ricky, aka the Sorare Mamba on Sorare, and I am joined once again by Play Sharper Everton expert Johnny, aka Dornado on Sorare. Tonight, we will be looking at the new arrivals for each team in the Premier League so far this transfer window, and whether we think they will make an impact on Sorare for their team, and would they get into their new team's stack. We are down to 30 days to start the Premier League season. FPL's out, the countdown's on. Time to start thinking about it. So, with at least one team that should be well covered by us this evening. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you, and how are you doing?
I'm good. Finally got my camera mirrored to the correct way after 20 episodes. I'm now facing the right direction, so that's good. But no, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I've got my old school Everton shirt on, all my Everton gear in the background. I am ready to give you some awesome picks of Everton players.
Not a lot of incoming transfers to go for Everton, though, is there?
We've signed a few pensioners, so have you know.
Just the guy that got crapped in his mouth during a game. That's 8 so far, right?
And I'll break a little transfer story, actually, that's just hit. Breaking news. Not only have we bought Ashley Young today, which we will address later, but we are rumoured to be interested in Johnny Evans. Yet another pensioner that is way past his footballing ability. Can't wait.
I thought Fabrizio Dornado had something interesting there, and it's just another relegated player.
Yeah, tends to be what we aim for.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's not use up all our Everton spunk in one go. We'll go in alphabetical order when we get to it. So, we won't have long to wait if you are here for the Everton content. But first, we do like to catch up on any missing Sorare news. We did a bit on Tuesday. Without Swiss Mafia here again. So we've only got a couple of things really to go over, haven't we? The big breaking Sorare event this midweek, I guess, was the lifetime experience that they finally got around to showing us the videos of. Do you want to explain what that was?
Yeah, so they released a little video, for sort of 5-minute clip. I don't think it was that long, unless I've missed a longer video somewhere. Sort of detailing the 5 winners of the World Cup amateur competition that won a chance to play with Zinedine Zidane at a tournament in, I think, was it in his hometown? Was it Marseille? I think
it was in Marseille. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and I think it was. I don't think it was only Zidane. I think there was a few other ex-players knocking about. But I mean, Zidane was my favourite player growing up. I just think it's what an amazing thing to win. I would have just absolutely loved it. But he's still got it. He's walking to Everton's midfield. I'll tell you that now. Steady, but yeah, no, it was a good video, well made, and yeah, I'm extremely jealous of the 5 people that got to go along. That's for sure.
I saw one of them got nutmegged, didn't he? And they made that into a little clip and put it on the internet, getting megged by Zidane for everyone to see. Yeah, we've said plenty of times on this pod that these experiences are the type of things that will help Sarah stand out, and they make it unique.
Yeah, it completely does. Like, it's not the type of thing that you see across any other sort of sporting game or anything, really. Not as far as I've seen, anyway. You win stuff in FPL, don't you? But what is it, like some shirts and
goodie bag?
Like, I know it's free to play, but like, you look at the grab of FPL. This type of thing is what sets Sorare apart. I think they're quite happy with the fact that all 5 winners were from, like, there was London, there was Germany, Italy, South Africa, and was it Spain? Like, there were 5 different nations, which I think suited them perfectly. Really showed the like global appeal that Sorare has. I mean, it just looked incredible.
How come the one lad doesn't have a personalised shirt?
Was it? Oh yeah, that's a bit weird. Don't know. Maybe he couldn't fit in it.
Oi, I know that feeling, unfortunately. Yeah, really cool, right? I'd love to do this. Imagine.
Oh, it'd just be a dream. Like, I'm absolutely buzzing to do Sorare 7s, to be honest with you. Imagine doing it if it was flipping professional football, ex-professional footballers there. Not only ex-professional, like probably the best player in the world for, a good few years, right? Maybe it's just me. I loved him so much. Like, he was like watching an artist, wasn't it? Watching Zidane just sort of glide around the pitch. But
yeah, that was a hell of a prize. Great bit of promo by Sorare as well. Nicely turned out video. Love it.
You got the Real Betis thing, haven't you? Obviously, that's going on at the moment. I think it closes tomorrow potentially. The applications for it. I think we've both discussed. No, I think we've both discussed how I won't be applying because can't get the time off from life. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see all these things, isn't it? And like we said, it does set Sorare apart from any other thing, I think.
Yep. So that was cool. The only other big thing, I guess, was the Victor Wembanyama. His rookie card went yesterday. Those were 5 special edition cards, weren't there? That of the top 5 picks, they released them as rares, which I thought was kind of a weird decision. I thought maybe releasing them as uniques or even super rares would make them a bit
more
like what they're going to do with the other 999 99, sorry, isn't it? Oh no, 1,000 in NBA. Yeah, would the price have been higher if it was a unique card and not a rare card, just for that individuality factor? But
I mean, maybe they're going to do one of each scarcity. I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
it's the only one that's going to look like that, apparently, isn't it? And it's the only one with a bonus. So yeah, I think it was really cool card, and obviously there's a huge amount of hype about him around the world. So if anything was going to be a really collectible card on Sorare, it could be this. If he turns out anywhere near his potential, this is one of those cards that, it's got that real big collectability factor behind it.
Also, like, whilst we're there, like, I know it's cool that he's wearing his suit and tie and whatever. Well, he's not wearing a suit and tie, but he's wearing like smart clothes and whatever. But I think if you just ignore who it is, like, that background and that card is fucking beautiful. Like, that is a really nice, rare looking card. I'd love to see that sort of transfer over to football somehow. It seems more detailed, doesn't it? It just seems like it's a bit more fancy.
Yeah, we're always after better card designs, aren't we? And that does really stand out. It's really cool. You Never Walk Alone was the one that took it home, just tad under 10 ETH. I think it was in Battle Bellamar till the bitter end. But yeah, I watched it live on a Sorare Data watch along. Really impressed by the look of the cards. I think that could turn out to be a bargain.
Is he really good then, or what? Like, I don't know anything about that NBA.
He could be a generational talent. He's the most hyped rookie since LeBron.
Wow.
He, in simple terms, he's absolutely massive. 7'4", 7'5", something along there. Huge wingspan. Great defensive ability. Good on the perimeter. Great ball handles. If he can stay fit, someone that big usually breaks down, don't they? That's what the history of the draft picks at that size have been. But, he seems to be doing well at the moment. So fingers crossed for him. He's bloody cool.
Can he do it on a cold Wednesday in Stoke, though? He's going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, cold in the bones.
We'll see.
We will see. Anyway, cool cards. I don't think we've got any other news really to go over, have we?
Well, there's another bit of Everton news today whilst we're here. I presume we've all seen. It's kind of like football news, really. The Dele Alli interview. Have you had a little browse of it, or not had a chance to yet?
I've had a brief overview.
I think, like, obviously I'm an Everton supporter, so I'm gonna, love it and not love it, but like, I think it sort of raises a important issue. I know. Obviously, Sorare Sevens is covering, men's mental health in particular, and it's just really brings it to everyone's a human being, right? And Dele Alli's been sort of completely traumatized by the newspapers and journalists over the years, and some of the stuff he admitted is brought it on himself a little bit. But you don't know he's obviously had a lot of issues, and I just think it was a really good interview today. Gary Neville did a great job interviewing him. I just thought it brought out some good comments and stuff on Twitter today. It's nice to see some positivity.
Yeah, it's nice to break up the Hugh Edwards news as well. So yeah, tough, but
I'll be backing him. He's going to be getting back in the team next season, and we're getting top 10.
Okay. On that ridiculous note, Dele Alli leading Everton to a top 10 finish. You heard it here first. Let's go on to the main event. So we're going to talk through each of the team's current Premier League incomings, the transfers that have already completed. We will include ones that are basically happening. Declan Rice, Onana, basically confirmed by Fabrizio. Here we go. So we'll go through those, and we're just going to talk through the impact we think they make on the team, the impact I think they'll make on Sorare, and if you was making a stack of that team, would these new signings get into it? All aboard the Premier League hype train with 30 days to go. So we'll start alphabetically at the top and go for Arsenal.
Arsenal, yes. So Arsenal, I feel like have been a lot busier than one transfer in suggests. So, obviously we've mentioned Declan Rice is on his way in during Timber as well, I believe. But yeah, the only one guaranteed to be playing for Arsenal next year so far, I think he played today in a friendly, is Kai Havertz from Chelsea.
Kai,
what's your views on him? I know I've always thought he was a really, really good player, but it's kind of not really worked out for him at Chelsea, didn't it? But it's difficult to sort of judge players that fail at Chelsea sometimes, because Chelsea's a weird club, isn't it? In terms of they just throw so much money at so many players that they don't all work at the same time. Sometimes, they've had Mo Salah, they've had who else have they had? Someone else.
I think the Lukaku was meant to be the problem solver, wasn't he? But I think the problem he had is he was played up front a lot of the time. He's not naturally a striker before he came to Chelsea, was he? And Chelsea were a bit of a shit tip last year. It was all over the place. There's players everywhere. And, it wasn't easy for anyone. And his scores reflect that. They were pretty bad last year. But he must retain some level of talent, because some big teams are after him this summer, weren't they? Real Madrid, all sorts.
I think it's quality. Like, I remember, but we were on Sorare at the time when he was at Bayer Leverkusen, right? And he was the next big thing, and he was quality. You see some clips. I know you can make any sort of YouTube highlights reel look good for anyone, really, but some of his goals he was scoring for Bayer Leverkusen is like a 20-year-old or however old he was. He's insane, and he was showing some really good glimpses of that at Chelsea as well. But like you said, I think he just got shooed into the team as a striker, and was sort of the rest of the team was struggling, and it wasn't really working. I do think it'll work out pretty well for him at Arsenal. I think he won't be as relied on to sort of sit up top. You've got Gabriel Jesus up there that is probably likely to do most of that sort of running, and Havertz is definitely a creative player. Kind of got a bit of Dennis Bergkamp about him, isn't he? In a way, kind of just sort of takes up good positions, lays on a lot of chances for other players. And I think if there's ever a team that's epitomised that type of football, it is Arsenal over the last 25 years.
I guess the main question with him is he will his new cards at Arsenal be striker, or because his current ones are midfielder, aren't they?
That's a good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know. He's quite valuable in terms, his price is held up. At a reasonable level now. Would you want a midfield card of Havertz or a striker card of Havertz? Arsenal were a lot more consistent than Chelsea last year, so they've got the Champions League. It's tough to tell. You're taking a little bit of
it's a punt, isn't it?
High performing, yeah. But he will be joined by Jurriën Timber, who by all accounts has basically done the medicals. So I think we can count him as an in. And under 23 for 2 more years in terms of Sorare, 211 quid. Put up some very good scores.
Very good player, isn't he? I think he'll do well for Arsenal once again. I do think Arsenal will have a good season next year. It's kind of like they're having that transfer window now that almost means they have to compete for the league next year. Like last year, I think it was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? I don't think any of us were thinking, like, you know, Arsenal fans, Premier League fans in general, I don't think anyone was thinking they would be leading the Premier League for that long and really seriously challenge. So now they've almost got the pressure now is this season, and they've got to sort of back it up what they did last season with also spending, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds on Declan Rice, Timber, and Havertz. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think he walks into defence for them, although they do have, you know, a reasonably solid defence. I know, is he a fullback or is he a centre back? Sorry.
Well, he's been a bit of CB and a bit of right back.
Yeah, I know they've been playing Ben White, haven't they, at right back last season, which kind of worked for a bit, but he did get found out, I think, against the better teams, which is where potentially Arsenal struggled and lost it in the end.
And you don't think he's probably not a right back, is he? Ben White, anyway. So
no, not a right back. That's what I mean. So he'll slot in at right back.
Yep, a solid under 23 right back option. And their last one we can take into account is Declan Rice. He's gone, basically, isn't he? It's all done. Just waiting for that announcement. Very expensive to get hold of.
It's crazy. I owned his original West Ham card when I first joined Sorare. Bought it. It was like 50 quid, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've spent so much money there." It's crazy to look back on it now, but yeah, I think, you know, he'll do really well. He's not necessarily a decisive king, is he, Declan Rice? But he's just very solid AA all round.
Very good scorer, very good AA. You know, this for West Ham, he did have a good season last year, but historically haven't been that great or reliable. And yeah, great scorer, still young. I think he'd go on to great things. I think he's, you know, going to be a linchpin in that Arsenal and England midfield.
Future captain probably for Arsenal, I'd say. Obviously, they've sold Xhaka, haven't they? Xhaka, I think, was, you know, a vice captain. Odegaard is captain, obviously, but yeah, he's going to be a linchpin, like I said, of that Arsenal team for many years to come. I'm sure Chelsea will be kicking themselves that they let him go when they did.
Yeah. So no new keepers. So you keep Ramsdale. Would you be putting Timber, Rice, or Havertz into your Arsenal stack if you were running an Arsenal stack? Let's presume Havertz stays as midfield for the sake of it.
So for me, I would put Timber and Rice straight in. I'd go for one defender in my stack, so it'd just be Timber. I'd go Rice. God, it is tough with Saka being midfielder, actually, isn't it, as well?
Mm-hmm.
God, it's tough. I was going to go Rice, Odegaard, Saka, but that's not possible. They got a good squad, haven't they? Christ. Yeah, I think Rice. I think you've got to put Rice in. I think you've probably got to put Saka in, and then I'm guessing Gabriel Jesus potentially. I mean, Martinelli's obviously very good as well. I know Gabriel Jesus is pretty frustrating to watch. He scores goals, but he misses like 4 gilt-edged chances every game as well.
Yeah, for me, Havertz isn't getting in. He's too much of an unknown quantity in this team and how long it's taken to settle. I do like Saliba, but yeah, I'm probably playing Timber. I'm probably playing Rice with Saka and Jesus. So yeah, I would say that Havertz misses out. But
you got Odegaard as well, obviously, haven't you? So like, obviously, Odegaard, Rice, and Saka are all sort of competing for those two in midfield there for me.
Yeah, a good transfer window for Arsenal. So let's move on because 19 more clubs to get through.
Yeah. So next up we have
powering through.
Next up we've got Aston Villa. So officially announced Pau Torres today. I know it's been in the pipeline for quite a couple of weeks now, but officially announced today. You've got Yuri Tielemans, which I almost felt snuck under the radar a little bit with the free transfer from Leicester, because I think it happened quite soon after Leicester relegated, wasn't it? It was kind of yeah. And then you got Rico Richards
as well. Yeah,
Rico Richards, who I don't know a huge amount about. I think they just picked him up on a free, so not sure. But obviously,
he's not so rare anyway. So
okay.
All right, Pau Torres, Villarreal, £117 or a tenner. 26 years old, good age to make the move to the Premier League. Last season, some dark green, a couple of peaky ones up here.
Good player. He's been highly tipped, hasn't he, for a couple of years now?
He is linked to United for a lot of
wasn't
windows.
Did Villarreal beat United, didn't it, in that Europa League a couple of years ago? And he played and was star man for them that season. Was playing for Spain as well, I think. Did he potentially play under Emery? In fact,
maybe.
Maybe that's why I might have missed that bit. But yeah, he's a very good player.
That is some decent AA he seems to put up throughout the game. Maybe Villarreal was shipping quite a few goals last year, which is keeping those clean sheets off. But he has been putting up good AA. So yeah, he looks like a promising player. He's been talked about a lot. Did I think that his eventual move to Premier League would be Aston Villa? No, but
you got Europe next season.
Good end to the season, yeah.
Yeah.
And Tielemans, 0.08, which I don't think is a bad price for the ex-Leicester and Belgium player.
Yeah,
a bit patchy last year. He had that big period out, didn't he? And Leicester were crap.
Leicester were awful. Let's
bank the place out. Plays for Belgium as well.
Yeah, let's not get that wrong. Leicester were. I just kept thinking Leicester were going to be fine. Everton were obviously down there, and I just kept thinking, well, Leicester are going to stay up because they've got a good team, and they just never got out of it. It kind of, I ended up watching quite a lot of Leicester games at the end of last season due to them being down there with Everton, and he did seem to down tools. I think a lot of the Leicester players seem to down tools a little bit. He knew he wasn't staying, what with being a free agent at the end of the season. Maybe he didn't do it on purpose. I think he just sort of naturally down tools. But I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. That certainly wouldn't sit well with me if he was doing it for Everton. But he's obviously a great player. Got linked to Arsenal for many years, didn't he? And when he was at Leicester, thriving. Think he'll do well at Villa. It's a very good signing, isn't it? On a free, probably on mega bucks, I'd imagine. But yeah,
great signing. I think he's a very good player. International, improves them, I think so.
And Emery's a great manager. I know he's kind of been a bit of a meme over the years, isn't he? With a good evening, and but he's actually a fantastic manager. He really is.
Yeah.
And I think Villa have done so well to get him in. I'm kind of jealous, to be honest.
Yeah. So you would be starting Martinez in goal, presuming he stays. Pau Torres, I guess we're both starting as our defender.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I was thinking, actually, just as we started talking to him, they've still got that Diego Carlos. I see he's still there. I don't think he's gone out on loan, but they spent a fair bit of money on him, and then he tore his Achilles, didn't he? As soon as he got to the first game of the season last year. So they're going to have Mings, Konza, Torres, and Diego Carlos potentially next year. I don't know how that's going to play out, but yeah, I guess Torres, you'd go Torres, right? I think Mings would probably be another option. I know he was flying last season, wasn't he? I don't like him at all, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, his AA, his ball playing ability out from the back is what I want for a Sorare player, pinging those balls around. If Aston Villa can keep that top level, performance in the Premier League, staying up high, dominating a few games, him pinging the ball out from the back and getting a lot of possession is what you want. So I'd be playing him. I think Tielemans would probably make my team as well, to be honest. I'd probably want Ollie Watkins. It's
Douglas Luiz. I know Douglas Luiz was really good for them last year. Obviously, takes corners and free kicks for them, which is obviously useful.
Ramsey was good. I'd probably be running a double midfield here of Tielemans, Luiz, Pau Torres, and a striker. Ollie Watkins seems like the obvious one. He didn't score too well, but I don't trust in Leon Bailey. But yeah, I think they're both great signings.
Yep, I would agree.
Right, next up.
On to the next. So next team is Bournemouth. I think everyone was surprised last year, wouldn't they, with how sort of well they did in the end. I think they lost. Didn't they lose 9-0 to Liverpool under Scott Parker early in the season?
Scott Parker said they're no way good enough. They're going to get relegated. And then Gary O'Neill kept them up, proved them all wrong, and then got sacked.
It's mad. Yeah, I mean, they got Gary O'Neill in as a sort of temporary charge, and then just seemed to do really well with them. Ended up not really being in any danger of relegation at all. I think they ended up being safe with about 7 games to go, which in terms of successful season for Bournemouth, that's a very successful season. But obviously, yeah, they've been a bit cutthroat. They've got a new owner now, named Michael B. Jordan, which is a bit random. And obviously, Michael B. Jordan didn't mesh too well with Gary O'Neill. Who'd have thought it? So, yeah, they've got a new random foreign manager I don't even know the name of. Don't know how he's going to do. But, yeah, transfers-wise, they've brought in Justin Kluivert, who, someone's been knocking around for quite a few years now. Everyone knows who he is and knows his dad as well. And then they got Hamid Traore, who's someone they had already on loan last season. And they just purchased him this year.
Made it official, didn't they? I think they had a clause that said let's do it. 20 million. Sosolu.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's reasonably cheap, and I don't know much about him.
Who's that?
Injured to end the season?
Traore.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't change the screen. Start the season for them. Didn't end it. I guess it was an injury. But, who doesn't like a nice youthful punt? He's still got another year of under 23 eligibility. But, yeah.
I mean, they spaffed 20 mil on him, and that seems a lot of money for Bournemouth. So, they clearly believe in him. I think it was an injury that sort of curtailed his season last year. I remember him being absolutely rapid from what I remember. Kluivert-wise, he's been knocking around for a few years now, isn't he? Was it Roma? Was it Valencia? I think he was at Marseille as well. He always seems to sort of get these biggish moves that like sort of 15, 20 mil and never really takes off, does he? I don't know. I mean, he's obviously got that surname, isn't he? That probably gets him, an extra trial or something here and there. I'm not sure.
He's always had a lot of hype, hasn't he? Football Index, so rare. I mean, that's a fairly reasonable price of £7 or 80. Not under 23 anymore. How was his scoring last season? Very patchy.
I mean, Valencia were awful last year, granted, but yeah, that's patchy, isn't it? Very patchy.
Yeah. See, I prefer. There's plenty of other players at Bournemouth that I'd be taking a flyer on if I had to. Neto, I think, is a really solid goalie at a decent price as well. I liked Senese, how he played at times. I'm a big Lloyd Kelly fan because of Bristol City.
Got Philip Billing as well. I think he's a really good player. I randomly was just looking at the friendlies results today on Live Score and noticed Bournemouth won 4-0. Philip Billing got a couple, so he's banging them in still. He had a good year last year, so he could be good value in the stack, I'd say.
I'm a big fan of Dango as well. I think he could kick on this season. Semenyo from Bristol City's come in as well. And they have been apparently the only bid Bristol City have had for Alex Scott at the moment is Bournemouth. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I probably wouldn't want Justin Kluivert in a stack of Bournemouth. I just don't trust him. And as for Hamid Traore, there's just not enough there to back him up for me going out to.
Do you want to share have you got the screen open for the teams?
I have, yeah. Here he is. So no, I probably wouldn't be using him.
You're looking at Solanke there, probably, aren't you? As a sort of nailed striker, did reasonably well last season. You're looking at Billing. You're looking at defender wise. You're probably looking at Senesi. He's a good player, isn't he? I don't think you've got in him. And then you've got Neto in goal. I mean,
there's a lot of potential there with Bournemouth. And there's a lot of these younger players, good potential, and a lot of wait and see with the new manager.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'd say there's more of a team you'd be taking punts on players rather than solid options.
Agreed.
Right,
Okay, next up we've got Brentford. So they've made the massive signing of Romeo Beckham from Inter Miami. So presumably slots straight in as free kick taker for Brentford this season. We got previously mentioned Kim Ji-soo from Seongnam. We'll have to defer to your greater knowledge on him because I don't know much. They picked up Mark Flecken, who few people know from Freiburg even. And then Kevin Shade, who they had on loan from Freiburg last season, they bought out the option on him. And then Nathan Collins, which seems crazy fee. He's only just left Burnley to join Wolves, and then Wolves just cashed in him straight away. I mean, he's always looked okay, but that's a big fee. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the interesting one there for me is Mark Flecken. Obviously, they've got David Raya, who's an extremely good goalkeeper. I don't know what you think about him, but he always looks like he's ready for that sort of next move. I know he got touted with Spurs, didn't he, a little bit, but Spurs obviously now spaffed all their money on another keeper. So, and then they've got Thomas Strakosha there as well, who's someone I own, who's a good goalkeeper too. So they've got a lot of their money is sort of tied up in 3 goalkeepers, it seems. So I don't know whether there's going to be a goalkeeper move somewhere along the line there. Obviously, Flecken's not going to go because he's just come in. It's a weird one because he was a good number 1 at Freiburg, wasn't he, last season?
Yeah, it's a weird one because they could all be number 1s in their own right. You know, Flecken's in an international team. Strakosha is an international goalie, isn't he? So it's a really odd one. My presumption was that Raya was going. I know Tottenham were after it for a little bit, weren't they? And then they just went with a cheaper option.
So my presumption is that too. But also, you know, I'm constantly looking up Strakosha news because I own him and I wanted to see him go somewhere he'd play. And like, he also isn't happy at being a number 2. So like, David Raya you'd think was leaving, and Strakosha is probably going to leave as well. So they're going to end up with 1 keeper. It's a strange one. It's something to watch, isn't it? The next sort of month or so before the season starts. So I do think something's going to happen there.
Yeah. It's really tough to tell. They can't all stay there. Is what I took from it. Kim Ji-soo has come from Sungnam. He's really young. He's gone into the second team with Romeo Beckham.
Yeah.
Good prospect, but he won't be doing anything for a while.
Yeah.
Nathan Collins is a bit of a prospect, doesn't he?
Yes, a bit of a weird one. He looked a decent player. Obviously, we saw him, didn't we, for Wolves against United at the end of the season last year. We went up for the game. Good player. Just seems, I don't know, just seems like a very random lot of money to spend on somebody. You know, maybe he was wrong. He isn't that great in terms of Sorare. Wasn't even a guaranteed starter for Wolves last year. So
you get the international with him though, which is nice. Always that extra utility that we like. And they got Kevin Shardy.
Yeah, so
Kevin's 23 as well for a little bit longer. Well,
he's decent prospect. I think there's a lot of chat about how he is a very good prospect. You know, once again, big money spent on him here for 22 million for a young player.
He has been there, hasn't he? So just confirm it. They just confirmed was it a loan originally? They've confirmed it now, which makes you think that they saw enough to be impressed with him. Without Ivan Toney till January, isn't it? So,
I was just about to say, you look at the fact they've not got Toney there for quite some time, so they're going to have to sort of cover him. I think Brentford are going to struggle next season with Toney away. You know, I like the manager. I think they've got some good players there. Obviously, and they're a very good team. They've got a good team morale. But you take out Ivan Toney's goals, he's scored so many key goals for them for the last couple of seasons, isn't he? Like, that's going to be such a big miss for them. I
worry about them as well.
They got in Buemo, haven't they? Who's a good player, but so many of like the goals they scored were in Buemo assisting Toney assist. Like, they were a really good pair. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes now with Toney being suspended for betting on corners.
Indeed, I don't think. Well, I'd be playing in Buemo. You might fancy Kevin Shard if he's going to start in that front 3 and he's a midfield card. But then two really good performances at the back as well last season were Pinnock and me. So if you want to run both of those, whichever goal he gets in could be a good hold, but it's knowing that in advance. But the goalie with 2 defenders, and then if you play the striker, there's only one more spot left.
You're probably looking at Norgard, I think. He's their it's just been made their club captain. I think he was vice captain last season, potentially. But yeah, he's a bank. He's a nailed on starter for them. He's a pretty solid scorer. I think he's probably their main guy in midfield. I mean, you look at their squad, don't you? And it's not that. They were fine last year, completely fine. What, they finished like 10th, something like that in the end.
Yeah, I wouldn't want no piece of that. No piece of that, unfortunately. No. And it's quite hard to recommend any of those new players.
Yeah, agreed.
As part of a Premier League or even a Brentford stack. So let's move on.
So next team is Brighton. So obviously did fantastic last season. Have made a few signings this year. So they signed João Pedro really early on in the transfer window from Watford, who's a very good player. James Milner they picked up on a free, who we all know. And then they got Bart Verbruggen, who also people will know from his time at Anderlecht. And then Mahmoud Dahoud from Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, all supplemented by the fact they sold Alexis McAllister to Liverpool.
And probably going to sell Caicedo to Chelsea.
And probably
going to lose a lot of power. Did very well last season. So can they replace it? New goalie?
I think they probably can. I don't know about you. I mean, they were a very impressive team to watch last year. Apart from that one game, they got absolutely smashed 5-1 at home to Everton. But yeah, they're good man, very good manager who I think will go on to manage, much bigger teams. Another, as we've just mentioned about Brentford, another sort of interesting goalkeeper situation. What with Bart Verbruggen joining for a big fee, and then they had Sanchez, who was really good, and then sort of got dropped, didn't he, for the guy I've forgotten the name of.
Steele,
who did okay, I thought, in his stead, I guess you'd say, but he sort of kept him out of the team in the end. So they got 3 keepers there now again. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Maybe they'll sell Sanchez. Don't know. It's interesting.
Obviously, Verbruggen was a good scorer at Anderlecht last season. It was in the under-21 tournament as well. But yeah, good goalie. But
he's young, isn't he? So maybe they won't. Maybe they'll hold him back from starting straight off the bat, being a 20-year-old. But
if he starts straight off the bat, it's great, and maybe that is the plan. They must have got him in for a reason, but I don't know enough about Brentford's goalkeeper situation to recommend him, and that's a hell of a price if you're going to pay it. You're probably going to want some sort of immediate return. They got Dahoud in. Dahoud is on fire.
Nice.
Hasn't done a lot at Borussia Dortmund last year.
No.
Needed a fresh start. Was a good player. See if the Brighton touch can ignite him. There's not a lot to go on here, and obviously, come from a good team, a good pedigree. But is that enough to recommend getting him in on Sorare? I would say I wouldn't be wanting any part of that.
It's a wait and see, isn't it? A wait and see on that one.
The one that does interest me is João Pedro. I thought he was really good at Watford. Yeah. Saw him in the flesh. And yeah, really impressed by him. I think he's a really good player, really good talent. They snapped him up nice and early.
Yeah.
Had some great scores for Watford in the Championship. Feels to me like a proper Brighton player, the way they play. So yeah, I would be very excited by him.
He's a quality player, isn't he? I think for a few years, when they had Ismail Assar as well, which I think they still got him. I'll keep the links with the other teams. But like Ismail Assar would almost always get the headlines in a way. But I think a lot of sort of true football fans were like, forget Ismail Assar. Like, you should be looking at this kid, João Pedro. Like, he is quality. And I've seen him live as well for Everton against Watford, where they dicked us. And he was really good. He's a great player. And obviously, you've gone from a sort of young, up-and-coming great player to one of the oldest players and most capped players in Premier League history, James Milner, who pains me to say it, but he's been, coming from Liverpool, but he was a great servant to Liverpool. Quite injury prone, but he'll bring good leadership into Brighton's team, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wouldn't want him on Sorare, though.
No, I would not want him on Sorare, definitely.
Probably sub most of the time, quite old. The goalie situation here, price as if Verbruggen's going to start. Sanchez is still pretty hefty price in there as well. And even Jason Steele is still 0.14. So
it's tricky.
Decent whack for all 3 keepers there. And I'm not experienced enough in Brighton knowledge to know who's going to play, but I want no part of that.
I think Carl Rushworth might start.
Yeah, I like Adam Webster, but ex-Bristol City lad. But Estupinan was good in the flesh, wasn't he? I'm not sure if his scores don't seem to correlate as well.
Yeah, I think
he's so rare.
I think he had a good season, didn't he? But yeah, so rare wise, I'm not sure he correlates. Dunk's just signed a new deal, hasn't he? So he'll probably still be pretty solid there. And then you got Pascal Gross was really good. Solly Match was obviously a bit of a FPL sort of player last year, wasn't he? Yeah, Wonder Boy.
Matoma is obviously incredibly good. Yeah. And Ciso was on fire come the end of the season. I've got his rookie card. I have a Sorare of Pascal Gross as well. So I'm a little invested in the Brighton team. Dahoud coming in there. Still got Lallana, João Pedro.
Extremely good squad of young players. You got you, Evan Ferguson, your ex-lover Danny Welbeck. But Brighton, for me, since they've come up to the Premier League, are an example of how a football team should be run. Certainly like the next tier down from sort of the top teams. Like they buy young players that have great potential. They obviously have a really good scouting network. And you look at their squad now, it's stacked. It's absolutely stacked of quality players. And they're making massive profits on these players. Like you look at Caicedo, they had Alexis Sanchez, they bought for like 5 mil or whatever it was, and they sold him for 55 mil. They had what's his name? He went to Spurs, the centre midfielder, the season before last. Forgotten his name now, but they signed him for pittance and then sold him for like 30 mil. So they're how a team should be run. I think they'll do well again next year. For me,
yeah. I mean, I like a lot of options here. I'd want to get João Pedro in, but there's some tasty midfield cards there. I think you can pick and choose from a lot of players in this Brighton team. Very exciting.
I don't think you can look past
there's Matoma fridge magnet. You can build a nice young team here as well, couldn't you?
Oh crap! I'm just knocked my table over there. Steady on.
Yeah, great team, great Sorare team, great Sorare assets.
I agree. Okay, next club on the line is Burnley. Obviously, I think we'll be seeing a different Burnley this year to what we've seen in previous forays in the Premier League. You got Vincent Kompany running the show there. He looks like a pretty good manager, doesn't he? I think Burnley will do pretty well. They've signed Jordan Bayer. I think, did they have him on loan last year, Jordan Bayer? From Mönchengladbach, I'm not sure. Then they signed Dara O'Shea from West Brom, who's a good young player. And then another guy I've never heard of from Leyton Orient. So they haven't really been too active so far because they've been there getting promoted.
So Dara O'Shea doesn't have a Sorare card. So
he'd like to think he will have, though. He will have at some point.
He will have, but in terms of what we can go on.
Yeah.
Jordan Bayer was obviously at Burnley, like you said, and smashed it up last year.
It's a tricky one, isn't it, with Burnley? Because all their good players, as in like score-wise, were because they're in the league below. So it'd be interesting to see how their scores correlate when they go up to the big boy league. I think they will do well. They've got some good players, but I don't know. We'll see. I think they're relying a lot on Kompany rather than the players, if that makes sense.
I would want no part of this. I don't think they're going to do well.
Not even Josh Brownhill.
I like Josh. He's been gone a few years now. He's faded from my memory quite a lot. Some great scorers last season. Some of them were like berserk for second division when you're using them on Sorare, but I just don't think it will correlate in the Premier League. And I think Wout Weghorst, I think they will get some proper hide-ins, and I wouldn't want to be stacking anyone from this team. It's so hard to trust those great scores they got last year. Obviously, I would use Bayer if I was going to make a Burnley stack, but yeah, I'd be avoiding this situation. But Vincent Kompany has shown to be a good manager, so I'm not saying they're without hope. I just would have them pegged for relegation.
Yeah, right, agreed. Well, I might as well just crack straight on then, shall we, to Chelsea?
Make up some time. Thanks, Burnley.
Yeah, obviously, had more outgoings than ingoings this summer. The main purchases being Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku. I might have his autograph just over there. What a top lad. I think Nkunku's going to do. He's a very good player, isn't he, Nkunku? I think he'll do well. And I think he has been joining Chelsea for like 3 years now. He's officially there now. Nicholas Jackson, I don't know a huge amount about, apart from that he's kept scoring goals for Villarreal at the end of last season. I don't know what your views are.
I like Nkunku. Had a bit of injury trouble last season, didn't he?
Yeah.
French international. I think he's going to play as that striker, isn't he, for Chelsea? The furthest point forward, which is, the thing that they lack the most. Created a lot of chances this season, but could do fuck all with it because they were playing Havertz up front. So I think he could make a massive difference. And if he hits the ground running, could see a lot of decisives to his name. I think Chelsea definitely improve. I think they've got a great squad. How far they improve is another thing, but yeah, I think Nkunku's a great signing. I think he could kick on for Chelsea and France as well. And the other one is Nicholas Jackson, right? Younger one, got a couple of years under 23 utility out of him. Striker as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's more of like out and out number 9 than Nkunku. I think Nkunku's more of a sort of on the wing coming in type of striker. They do seem to have a flipping crap load of attacking players, don't they? So it'll be interesting to see how they juggle all that. But
I mean, those scores are insane to end the season. You'd love to see it. The problem you're going to have with Chelsea is who's going to start, isn't it?
I think that's always the rotation. Always the problem with Chelsea, isn't it? They just try to do too much. It almost just seems like it's kid in a candy shop with Chelsea sometimes. There's no actual theory to what they're trying to achieve. It's just if we buy enough good players, we'll win. I think that's what their tactics are. But last year, if anything, should have taught them that isn't the case.
Because what you're looking at back here, it could be anything, right?
Well, you got Reece James, haven't you? Reece James is, a fantastic player to have when fit, and he had one of his worst seasons of injuries last year. And I actually saw some news today that he's going to see a knee specialist again today.
Exactly, it's so hard to.
It's tricky.
Chilwell has his injury problems. Levi Colwill was really good for Brighton last season, really good for England under 21s. Thiago Silva still keeps going somehow, and then when you start getting into the midfield, Enzo, Mudryk, Conor Gallagher, he's on the way out, I think, isn't he?
Potentially. And Nkunku. You got Sterling, people like Sterling that people forget about. And then you've got Madueke. It did really, really well for England. It was getting raved about at the under 21s. I know it's only under 21s, but they've just got so many players to keep happy, haven't they? I just don't know how they're going to manage it. They've sold Pulisic, haven't they, today? They've got rid of Aubameyang. So there's a lot of players going the other way, but
Lukaku's going to go. There's probably more to come in, but I'd really like the look of Enzo and Mudryk. If it's Nkunku up front or Jackson, whoever's, I think it'd be Nkunku. So those three, I'd probably hang my hat on, and then take your pick of the defender that you think is the most nailed, and the keeper. So I think a Chelsea stack would be really good, and there's some really good young options in there as well to make a nice under 23 stack. If you wanted to as well. Beasts in there.
So nice quick one next. So we got Crystal Palace. They've signed Jefferson Lerma from Bournemouth on a free. And that is it so far. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours with Zaha as a free agent now. Is he leaving? Is he re-signing? What's going on? Is he going somewhere? So I think they're probably waiting on that to be resolved before they make any more transfers. But Jefferson Lerma on a free, I think he'll do well. But
Jefferson Lerma is just a solid player, isn't he?
Solid. He's not going to win you anything, but he'll win you ETH thresholds by just getting 45, 50 every week.
Drop him in your. It's like a cat player, isn't he? He's a wavy up and down sort.
Yeah. Other than that, Palace obviously looking at Elise and Eze as your sort of main two. They're definitely going to be in your stack. You've got Sam Johnson, I think, is going to be the number one next season. Grace is leaving, apparently, and also was not number one for the second half of last season.
Shout out for this guy. I really like him as an under 23 option for 2 more years. Finished the season really well under Roy. Got an England squad as well.
Very good player. Another player that Chelsea have sort of let down over the years and is doing well somewhere else.
Yeah, I'd definitely be having him in. But yeah, then you say you got the young lads in the middle. Well, Eze's not really young anymore, but young compared to me. I think there's enough there that if you run a Palace stack, I would think it's the worst thing you've ever done. If you're running Gay, Eze, Elise, and say Zaha stays with Sam Johnson, I don't mind that 5, but it's, with Roy in charge, you don't get much free-flowing attacking football, do you? No. So,
true.
I do like some of their players there. Right, who are we going for next?
Oh, I wonder who's potentially next. We have Everton. Obviously not updated with Ashley Young yet. So the only purchase we've made so far, and in fact in the last year, is Ashley Young. 38 from Aston Villa, got released. Aston Villa fans were actually very unhappy that they didn't keep him. They offered him a new deal and he declined it because he wanted to go and play for Sean Dyche. Because they actually played 15 games together when he was at Watford back in the day, and they're really good friends, apparently. But no, I don't mind it. He was free, and he had the 3rd highest tackling percentage in Europe last season, Ashley Young, with players with 50 or more tackles. So,
well, you cling to those stats.
We cling into those stats the cow come home. So, yeah, other than that, we're getting rumoured with a lot of players, as we usually do. We've put in a couple of bids, apparently, for El Bilal Torre, who plays in Spain. We've got Anthony Olanga potentially coming in as well, which would be good. Rumours are flying about. But, yeah, the only one that's confirmed is Ashley Young. In terms of the stack, obviously you've got Pickford. He's going to be the absolute nailed-on starter. You've got Tarkowski is probably the only nailed-on starter right now. It's worth watching, see what happens with Jared Branthwaite this season. I think he could be...
Yeah, a lot of people talk about him.
Yeah, he could be a really good player for us, but also there's sort of slight rumours that we might sell him. So it's a bit of who knows what's going to happen. I think Ashley Young will come in as a defender card as well, which might be good because he's quite an attacking defender. In terms of midfielders, obviously you got the legend that is Dele Alli. He used to be straight in. No, you got Abdoulaye Doucouré, I think, is a very solid midfielder option. Ended the season really well last season. Was one of our key men. I think he had something like 6 goals or assists in the last 8 goals Everton scored in the Premier League last season, which is pretty vital considering we stayed up by like a couple of points. You've got Onana, who's I've raved about.
Onana, what's my name?
You've got Onana, Idrissa Gana, and James Garner in the midfield there. So we did have a Onana midfield trio multiple times last season. It was glorious. But Garner actually ended up playing right back a little bit for us last season, and I think it may have led to him playing right back for England under 21s.
21s, yeah.
And he got voted into the team of the Euros, and he did really well by all accounts. So, yeah, I think you probably have Onana or James Garner in as well, and then you got Dwight McNeil. I love Dwight McNeil. He's quality. He got Young Player of the Season for us. He actually had a really great season, considering we were so bad. I think he got 8 goals, sort of 6 assists, which, isn't great if you're a follower of a big team, but like a big team. But, that's pretty solid for us in a team that's struggling like mad. You've got Alex Iwobi, who also did well, but is kind of getting rumoured with potentially leaving. Contract talks have sort of been held up. He's only got 1 year left in his contract, so... yeah, watch that space for next month. You got Damari Gray, who also did pretty well last season, but is getting linked to Saudi Arabia at the moment. And then you got Calvert-Lewin, who, I love Calvert-Lewin, but he is just a walking injury. Has looked good in pre-season videos and fitness videos so far, but it just takes one little thing and he'll be down for 3 months again. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple of good options in this forward line, but your midfield and defence are fairly pissed to me from a Sorare point of view.
Tarkowski loves a clearance off the line, I would say. If you're looking for defenders who love to throw themselves about like nutters, then Tarkowski's your man.
I do like Dwight McNeil up front. Yeah, really good under 23 option if you're looking for a budget under 23 striker, because you can't afford the big boys. I think he fits the bill really well.
I mean, we could just delay at this point, and I could talk you through everyone's history here on every single player if you wanted.
No one wants to see that. Let's move on.
Okay, next we've got Fulham, who've been incredibly busy with 0 ins so far. I know they've been linked with quite a few players, but yeah, in terms of players coming in,
I think there's quite a few that are close to being done, aren't they? But nothing's officially over the line.
Well, they had a bid. They rejected a bid to was it today or yesterday for Mitrovic from Saudi Arabia, from the same team that has unfortunately bought Milinkovic-Savic.
They got Willian with Nottingham Forest want him, don't they? And Saudi.
Yeah.
And who was the other one?
Isn't it? You'd think, they had a good season last year for them. They were sort of snooping around Europe for up until about 25 games into the season. They sort of slacked a little bit at the end, but they had a really good season. So you think they'd really try and push home in this summer transfer window, try and bring in some recruits to sort of really capitalise on how well they did. But they haven't really done anything. I wonder if they're getting sort of held back by financial fair play a little bit somehow. But
William was really good from a Sorare point of view last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he was capable of putting up some really good scores, some good decisives, really cheap as well. If he stays on, gives him another year,
just that
really
risk, isn't it?
Option.
The Saudi risk.
Yeah, you're sort of buying him at a low price. I suspect a bit of that risk is factored into it. But you could go to Forest. They'll probably do better. Harry Wilson's a good midfield option here. Slim pickings is what I'd call Watford, though.
So they got a player they have that I think is bloody quality is Paulinho. I know he's had some links to bigger teams, but his actual scores don't relate that well to Sorare, I don't think. But I've done the visual watching of him test, and he's an absolutely insane footballer. He's a great footballer, but if you're looking for actual Sorare scores, you can probably get a lot better value in other places. But
plays for Portugal as well, and I mean there are some good scorers here. But I think it's a consistency thing with Fulham, wasn't it? Like these three back here and Babu, Tete.
Babu.
You could do a double defensive stack. Leno's a decent goalie with a decent reputation. Pick Wilson or Paulinho, Willian up front if he stays.
Yeah, maybe
historically they'll score well enough to get you prizes from time to time. So.
Yeah,
a bit thin on the floor if you get an injury or two that you want to pick up some players to fill in. But
release Joe Bryan.
Some of those he's gone. Yeah, he's gone to Millwall. Turned us down, the bastard. Wanted the London life.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right,
okay,
let's go.
Next up, we've got the horrible, dirty Copites, Liverpool.
Bin dippers.
Bin dippers. So we've talked about Alexis McAllister a little bit earlier from leaving Brighton. Spanked a lot of money on him, and then they've got someone we've mentioned on the pod before, Dominic Sorare. I think he's a great footballer, Dominic Sorare. But so I'm gutted to see him join a team I really don't like. But yeah, I think he'll do well for Liverpool. I think they're in a bit of a transition, aren't they, Liverpool? They didn't have a particularly good season last season. Obviously, Mane left last season, and then you got Firmino's left this season. So it's like the sort of old guard is sort of leaving. Fabinho's leaving. Henderson's potentially leaving.
Love this guy. Great scores. International utility. Scores well for Hungary as well. You got to pay a decent price to get him now. He's at Liverpool. That's not cheap, but I think he'll be a linchpin in there. Under 23 for 2 more years. You're getting a lot of value and utility out of that card if you want to pony up the money. So I think that's a great signing by them. I think they've got some great strikers as well. They've got Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Nunez, Salah. They're all up there, and you can afford for one of them to be a bust, really, couldn't you? If 3 of them kick on. I think Gakpo's a great player. Diaz was on fire before his injury. I'm worried that now they've sorted their midfield out, that they might kick back on a little bit. McAllister.
Do you think they've sorted their midfield out though? Like, who have they got that's going to play that role? They've got a lot of attacking players, Liverpool. You've got their defending midfielders over the years have been Fabinho and Henson. They're both leaving. So they must have somebody else in the pipeline, potentially. Because they've got rid of Keita, haven't they? They've got rid of Milner. They've they must have something else going. Because Solobloy and McAllister, both attacking midfielders. And then
I think McAllister can do the box-to-box role, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Sob Doblob, if they're playing 4-3-3, maybe it's Trent. Maybe Trent's the...
Yeah, true, yeah. But
maybe Trent's the DM.
He's a creative deep line midfielder, isn't he, if he plays there? He's not like a defensive midfielder, is he? But
McAllister can do some of the dirty work as well. Look at his scores. That's very good for a Brighton player.
One thing I would say, and maybe this is just because of my Everton hat, but I think McAllister's going to be a dud at Liverpool. I just don't think he suits the way they're going to play. And I think he's obviously done really well for Brighton and then had a really good World Cup for Argentina, but I just don't think it's going to happen with him at Liverpool.
Really?
We'll see. We will see.
I think he will do well. I mean, Liverpool, there's a lot of good options if you're building a stack. Obviously, the goalie's very expensive. That's what his scores relate to. Liverpool players, one of the first, West Ham and Liverpool were the first two Premier League teams on. So, Trent, you're paying through the nose. Van Dijk is expensive.
Robertson's probably the cheapest of those options at the moment, isn't he? But
yeah, and it's still, nothing here.
Curtis Jones as well. Like Curtis Jones had a great last season and did really well for England. Like he could be playing the centre mid next year as well. And then there's
the options up here. I like Gakpo. I'd actually like to get his rare in from my under-23 team. So I think he'll be the one that comes through. But these five here.
What do you think Jota's thinking there? Do you think Jota's thinking I probably want to leave?
I think he'd get some game time, probably to start with. He'll probably see a bit of game time at the start of the season. But I think Diaz, Nunez and Gakpo, at least two of them I expect to come on strong. And that's probably all they need if they've got Salah and Jota there as well. Well, expensive team. But I would be having a bit of sub-lob in my midfield.
Here's hoping they get relegated, eh? Okay. So next up could be interesting. Luton Town. I know they play in the local newsagents, so we'll see how that goes. They join the Premier League, but they've signed a couple of players, Mads Anderson and Chiedozie Ogbene. I've got to say, I don't know much about Luton. I don't know much about these two players they've signed. I know we do have someone on the show right now who used to go and watch Luton, was actually brought up in Luton.
I was indeed. Yeah, I used to have a kids' season ticket to Luton. I do still, follow them slightly, but I wouldn't be able to give you too much in depth about what is going on. You own Kaminsky.
The only bit of news I can give, sorry to interrupt, is that it looks like they're going to sign Thomas Kaminsky, who's a card that I own from Blackburn. So it looks like Kaminsky will potentially come in and take the number 1 jersey for them. But in terms of the rest of the team, I'll have to see what we're saying here.
Big step up considering he got dropped from Blackburn last season, and now
he didn't get dropped. He got injured, a really bad injury, and then he had a baby. And in that time where he was out for like 3 months, the other keeper did well. And I think potentially there was rumours of him leaving anyway. So I think they just sort of committed to the younger keeper and probably cashing in him. But
sounds like drop to me. Obviously, like Burnley, we said some of these players show really good scores, but can that correlate to the Premier League? I don't want to say it. I want them to stay up, but you would imagine Luton would take some drubbings next year. Amari Bell is the 4.4 million FPL option everyone's been raving about. Lockyer's just signed another 1-year deal. It might be longer actually. Just signed a new deal. It's tough to trust any of these players with any faith. The new signing, Mads Anderson, isn't on Sorare, doesn't have a card, so he's of no use. Kaminsky obviously does if he comes in. 0.29 at the moment is rare on the market, and that's kind of cheap for a Premier League goalkeeper. but you can't imagine he'd be keeping too many cleanies.
Yeah, he'll be busy. He'll be getting a lot of saves, but I mean, do any of them even have cards at the moment? I don't think they do. So we can probably advise to watch this space with Luton.
Watch this space and wait till they get released would be a start.
Yeah.
Right.
So next up, we've got Manchester.
Flagged our way through Luton. So who've we got next?
Yeah, we've got Man City, who have made the massive signing of Spike Brits from AFC Wimbledon. Don't know who he is, but he's got a great name. But they signed Mateo Kovacic, who I guess is sort of to directly replace Gundogan in a way. I've always really rated Kovacic when he was at Chelsea. He seems like a very...
He's not signed anyone else?
Nope. They've released Benjamin Mendy so that he can be put straight to jail. So yeah, I don't know what else they've really not got. I mean, do they need to change anything? They probably just like won everything they've ever done in the last year.
Yeah.
So
I guess Gundogan was an outstanding performer. Unfortunately, put Man United soared in the FA Cup final. But yeah, Kovacic is a really good player, isn't he? Croatian, so you got that international utility, which I feel like you say with most of these players that get signed to the Premier League. Sorare wise, I wouldn't say his scores have been off the chart.
I can see him. I mean, historically, he's okay. I can see him coming in and being absolutely like he always does, like really great things for Chelsea, but like once every like few games. But I can see him coming in and just being absolutely incredible for Man City under Pep.
Yeah, like he was kind of mediocre last season, but Chelsea were a complete shit show.
Yeah.
So like, who was going to do anything at Chelsea last season? So yeah, I can see him as well coming in and just being absolute gravy in there. He's
certainly not making your stack though, is he? The amount of options you've got in Man City midfield.
It's a relatively cheap price though. If you have him nailed as a starter, which can you really have anyone nailed as a starter in Man City's team? No. But hang on a second. Had the old flies trying to get in the window. You can't really have anyone nailed in Man City's team, but he's a reasonably cheap option. Man City stacks, like when we said about the Liverpool stacks, cost a fuckload of money, don't they?
I mean, you've got a limited stack, haven't you? And that would probably cost the same as doing a rare stack of Everton.
I have Diaz, Rodri, and KDB, Sorare. So yeah, I am looking.
Bernardo Silva, got Bernardo Silva as well. Would you stand?
I didn't. I got rid of Bernardo Silva because I thought he might leave, and he's one of the ones that, I struggle with that rotation. I want Edison, another really good goalie like Alisson, but you're paying for it as well through the nose. Players score well for Man City basically if they start, don't they? So it's more of a case of getting a stack of starters than it is a lot else. Stones, Diaz, Laporte, Ake, can all do a job. Akanji's low-key great when he plays.
Impossible to tell. I mean, it's difficult to advise a stack. You could literally stack any of these players, but like you got Kevin De Bruyne, Rodrigo is an elite player. You got Grealish as well. Like he was incredible last season. Phil Foden didn't really do much last season. He's like one of the best English prospects around. And then you got Haaland and Alvarez, who like Alvarez is one injury away to being like a really expensive player all over again. Like because anyone up front for Man City is just going to score a flipping shitload, aren't they? So yeah,
I guess it's which competition's coming up, isn't it? If they're playing in the someone crap or Carling Cup and FA Cup aren't covered, are they? So Grealish. Yeah, it's about. I love Rodrigo, but they all cost the money, and then they're not certain to start. So if you've got loads of money, my recommendation is buy Rodrigo, Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, Edison.
Yeah,
any of the defenders, and go have a great time, you twats, with all your money.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Manchester United. So I guess I'll defer to your knowledge. Great knowledge. Obviously, only one person's come in so far, but it's definitely a keeper, Onana, coming in as well.
I did look on Twitter while you were talking about Everton, actually, and Andre Unana, what's my name? Unana, is having his last dinner in Milan, apparently, is the latest news.
Is he dead? Really... Is he dying? Is he on death row?
He's a really good keeper to the eye. I really like shot stopping ability, confidence in claiming the ball, plays the ball out really well from the back. I think he suits Ten Hag more than De Gea does. But, 76 rares of him and only 110 limiteds for a Man United card is going to be in massive demand. You can see by the prices.
Do you want to show your screen, right?
Oh, yeah. Here you are.
Yeah,
a lot of tabs, a lot of moving points in this this pod. It costs a lot of money.
From my perspective, I haven't actually seen a huge amount of Banana. I know he's a very good goalkeeper and a good scorer on Sorare, but I watched him obviously in the final against Man City, the Champions League final, and he just looks so comfortable on the ball, doesn't he? And is exactly how not only Man United want to play, but all modern football now is pretty much you have to have a ball-playing goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's
he looks to be about the pinnacle of that right now. So I think he'll be a very good signing.
I did make a mistake.
He might put your heart in your mouth a few times, but
he does what De Gea doesn't. He comes and gets the ball. He confidently comes and claims it, and he plays it out. So I like that. You're going to have to wait for the Man United cards to actually start churning out, so you can get that supply out of him, and hopefully this price would drop slightly. But De Gea was very pricey this season as well, for a long time after United were released. And then we've got Mason Mount, haven't we?
I did see a quite hilarious video of his best bits from the preseason friendly against Leeds. Was it yesterday? And he was just smashing the ball out for throw-ins and had a shot that went out for a goal miles away and was giving the ball. I was just like, oh Christ, not an ideal debut for him, but.
A lot of hype, a lot of talk about him, a lot of praise from people who've seen him at Chelsea. Didn't have a great second half of this last year. Injuries, rumours, fallings out, not signed a new contract. But historically, he's put up some really good scores. I'm interested to see exactly where he plays at United, probably before I'd go and get a copy of him, because Bruno's obviously the absolute key in there. You don't know who's going to play through the middle for United yet. Rashford, probably on the left-hand side, but there's Anthony, there's Sancho, lots of moving parts. So I'd be interested in Mason Mount once I knew where he was playing. And again, people are probably going to wait for his Man United card to come out, aren't they? Rather than
it's an interesting one. I think I've always really liked Mason Mount and thought for some reason he gets some abuse, quite a lot of abuse. I don't really understand it, but I always thought he was a really good player. I think he'll do well for United. Unfortunately, don't like to see United do well. But interested to see how he'll slot in. Like you said, with Bruno, you've got obviously Eriksen as well, Casemiro. There's a lot of players you've got to try and keep happy in the middle there. And you've spent 55 mil on him, so you'd like to think Mount's going to play.
I think you could see him in that Eriksen role, couldn't you? Eriksen started to fade a little bit towards the end of the season after another injury. You could see him taking that role, maybe a Casemiro Mount double act. He's a good box-to-box player, isn't he? But he's notoriously done quite a lot going forward in providing assists and unlocking defences. So it'd be weird. He's obviously not playing where Bruno plays. So at the back, I really like Sandro Martinez and Luke Shaw. I think both of them score really well.
Go on.
William Fish. A bit of William Fish. Big Willie Fish. Big Victor Lindelof is obviously we're key members of Victor Lindelof fan club. Great card to have. And then midfield, you want Bruno, right? Casemiro is a great player as well, but Bruno's the one that's going to put you up to different levels. I've got his Sorare, but he costs through the nose 1.5 for his lowest rare at the moment.
That's crazy.
I think Casemiro is a really well-priced player. Also rare in general for the scores he gets, 0.0154 and 0.129. Really
does love a ridiculous red card and 3-game suspension though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets booked for what other teams don't even get a foul for. He gets victimized He can do peaky scores, which I like.
Absolute shot. That's complete bollocks.
No, it's not. He gets picked on. I don't like Sancho because he's unreliable. Anthony, I think, might kick on, and Rashford's a good player. You can make a stack out United quite easily, but it's going to cost because
got
one of those fanboy clubs, aren't they?
Golden Boy Garnacho as well. Could have a good break.
I'm a star boy.
Okay. So
I'm a motherfucking star boy.
We're up to Saudi's English team, which is Newcastle.
Saudi's godchild.
So they've only made one signing so far, but it is a big one. Sandro Tonali he's a very good player, isn't he, Tonali?
Have they only bought one player as well?
They bought Jan Kuba Minty from Odense Bowl Club, but I don't know who he is. So, but yeah, Tonali is a very, very good player. I've enjoyed watching all this sort of memes of him looking incredibly unhappy at signing for Newcastle.
Or playing football with kids in the garden.
Yeah. I think he's an AC Milan fan, and loves AC Milan, and they've just sold him. But I guess they couldn't do it down to 52 mil. But yeah, I think he walks straight into a stack. To be honest with you, with Bruno probably in midfield.
Under 23 as well.
Under 23.
Love to see it. Not a terrible price, I think, for Newcastle's big new signing. £27. 282 is a lot, but it's not as much as some players we featured on here. And I think Newcastle could have a good season. You'd expect them to make a couple of more big signings.
Yeah, definitely.
But
you got
21s.
Yeah, he got international with him as well. I think he starts for Italy as well, doesn't he?
I think he does. They just dropped him down for that.
Right, and then you've got obviously Newcastle will be in Europe next year as well, so it could be that you're getting a hell of a lot of utility out of him.
Looks like a decent AA score as well. Average is 13.5. Which is not bad. Got some peaky scores in there, which you like to see.
Yeah.
I think he'll do really well. And Newcastle as a whole, club on the rise. So
they're doing annoyingly well, aren't they?
Pope's a good goalie. Trippier's obviously one of the darlings of Sorare.
Yeah.
Scores really well. So he'd be the one you'd want from the back line, wouldn't it? I'd like Tonali, but Bruno Guimaraes is a really, really good player in real life and on Sorare as well. So, Tonali is the cheaper of the options.
I'd probably go for both, to be honest, and stack him with Isaac up front. I know you've got Callum Wilson as well, haven't you? But I don't know. I'd probably choose Isaac out of them, and then.
I've been waiting for Isaac to really cement it and nail it down for a while, but Callum Wilson's just got that gravy, isn't he? Finishing, just can't shake him off in the England squads. I can see them both starting right at the start of the season.
Obviously,
they
got Claire Balding down there, bottom left as well.
It's your boy, Ant.
He can fuck off.
Played for England 21s, played very well for them. Started, didn't he? So, is that a cheap price, Anthony Gordon?
Don't care.
I think
well, he hasn't got any cards yet, I don't think, has he? Or did he get some? He did get some credit at the end of the season, didn't he? Actually.
Yeah, he's got 96 yellows, 22 reds. I don't think that's a bad price.
No, go and fucking buy him then.
Yeah, I mean, all his good scores for England, but I'm interested actually. Make a note.
Did us a dirty, mate. Did us a dirty, big time.
All right.
Okay, so next team.
So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. The bottom 25%.
Yeah, and this one hopefully shouldn't take too long. So Nottingham Forest have gone from signing 604 players last summer to signing Chris Wood. This summer. They did have him on loan last season as well, so it's not really a new signing. I think they signed him on loan, then he got injured. So, not really much to report here. I wouldn't be surprised if they're heavily held back by financial fair play this summer. I know they're getting quite heavily linked with Willian, like we've mentioned. Who else did I see? I saw someone else this morning as well. Can't remember. They've got. Say again.
I said, did they get Horvath full time?
I think wasn't he on loan? He was on loan at Luton, right, from Forest. So I think he's just gone back from his loan. I'm not sure if he's going to stay there as their keeper or don't know what's quite going on there.
That's the one, yeah.
But yeah, interested to see what happens with them this summer. Yeah, squad wise, they've got about 45 players to choose from for this stack.
So the goalie they had the guy from PSG, didn't they? And they had Dean
Henderson.
What's his face from United? Yeah. Goalkeeper blanks going on. So obviously they're probably going to get one in. I know they've been linked to Henderson.
Yeah, I don't know actually. It's a good point. I haven't really sort of snuck under the radar that goalkeeping situation, isn't it? But
yeah, I know they were looking at Henderson again, but
maybe they should
they'd get one in.
They should probably sign Jed Steer, I'd imagine. Because I bought his rare the other day.
Richie Larea?
Nah, he was on loan somewhere last season.
He's in the MLS, isn't he?
I think he's gone back to MLS, but yeah,
I'm getting weeded out by the Sorare data tab. I swear, he's literally playing.
There we go.
Toronto.
There we go. No, I think he was in the Championship, and then he was at Forest. I don't know, but he's certainly not an option. I think you're probably looking at Felipe as one of the better defensive options for Forest.
Yeah, I was just surprised Larea was there. That was my point. I had him in my MLS amateur team about 2 weeks ago. What's he doing in the Nottingham Forest squad? I think what you get here is they signed so many players last year that, on Football Manager, you usually have like half a season bedding in time to get your players up and running. It could be like a season and a half because there was so many of them. They did start to find some form at the end, didn't they? But, it's
interesting.
Much can we trust any of them?
There's not a huge amount. They did okay last year, but they certainly weren't keeping clean sheets. So I wouldn't be targeting any of their defenders or goalkeepers, to be honest. But midfielder and attacker wise, obviously you got Morgan Gibbs-White. I think is a very good player. You got Brennan Johnson, who there's actually some rumours of him leaving this summer, but he's not Nottingham Forest lad through and through, and his dad obviously is a Nottingham Forest legend. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if they sell him or not. And then you've got Denis, I know, is a very good player in midfield for them as well, centre mid. But yeah, other than that, not sure. Brennan Johnson's a forward, isn't he, on the game? Apologies.
Yeah, he's down there. Reasonable price now. Still under 23, right? So that's something. This guy did pretty well at times last season. Yeah,
he came in at the end, didn't he? And scored loads at the end. There we go. Scored 4. Oh, wow. He scored 6 goals in the last 4 games. Didn't realise it was that good.
Not much AA to go with it, though, which is, in fact, is minus AA.
I think that's probably because they'd score and then they were so desperate to keep the win, they just sat back and did nothing for the rest of the game.
But it's a very confusing team for Sorare purposes. I like Morgan Gibbs-White. You can maybe pick up a couple of the younger guys to bank on them improving. I like Brennan Johnson, but yeah, as you can tell by me trying to read through their squad list and getting confused because I think all their players play for other teams. That's how many there are and how all over the place they've been. Yeah. I can't even keep track of who's in the actual squad, let alone who we should buy on Sorare.
There we go. So we're on to another one, which I hope will be quite quick next. So we've got Sheffield United. Have bought nobody so far, which is interesting considering that their squad is pretty bad and they're going to need to make some changes, you'd think, to try and stay in the Premier League. I know they've apparently agreed to buy Mason Holgate off Everton, which would be lovely. So that could be a purchase incoming. But yeah, other than that, I don't know a huge amount about their squad at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of players don't have cards, as you can see going down here. They had a good run last season. Great to gain promotion, but from a Sorare point of view, there's nothing that you can go out and buy now. Sander Berge is the cards, but you'll be waiting for them to be released, basically, wouldn't you?
Their best player is Ibrahim Ndiaye. But is it Ibrahim? No, Iliman Ndiaye. So he's just agreed to join Marseille. So I think he's going to be off. So yeah, I think they're heavy favourites for the drop immediately.
Yeah, heavy favourites. No one you can buy a card of really right now, and no one you probably want to buy a card of unless you're a Sheffield United fan. when they come out. Jack Robinson, I heard a lot of like decent talk about him, but that's again.
I know of that. I know of that other centre back as well, that Anel Amahalovic. He's a good player as well. I own him on Ultimate Champions, believe it or not. I knew of him before I actually picked up his card on Ultimate Champions. He's a good player, I think.
It's Ollie Norwood's still there. He was my Ultimate Champions goal.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
at the end of last season. But again, the step up's going to make looking at any of these historical scores for most of the players pointless. Yeah. So, and I think they'll get battered.
Big time favourites for the drop for me. Okay, next we've got Tottenham. You've got Kulusevski, who we know about. Don't need to talk about him too much. They had him on loan last year. You got Vicario, who's the new goalkeeper they picked up from Empoli. Manuel Solomon, which is a bit of a random one. He was at Fulham last year, technically on loan from Shakhtar, and then has left, and then has gone to Tottenham. And then you got James Maddison, which is the big money move that they've made. I think Maddison's going to do really well there. He's been a linchpin for Leicester for a few years now. Obviously, it didn't go well last year, but he's a very, very good player. I think he'll go well. And then you've got Vicario, who's going to come in, I think, and be number one straight away. Obviously, Hugo Lloris has left now. Who's the other one? Fraser Forster, I think, did okay in his stead, didn't he? But he's not going to be their number one going forward. And then, you've got a good little squad, haven't they, Spurs? I think they're due a bounce back season. Don't know what you think.
A bit Spursy. The keeper looks pretty solid in the Italy squad. Doesn't really play, but he's a sub, so you might get occasional utility. He looks solid keeper, expensive to get hold of. James Maddison is a really good player. As I showed his scores up on screen earlier, he can put up some really big scores. If Spurs play well and they utilise him correctly, I think he could be a really, really good Sorare asset, because he's that creative type, isn't he, that racks up that AA very quickly at times.
That season before last season for Leicester, he had 700s.
Mental. It's 27 quid for a limited isn't too bad if you were looking at a limited Premier League stack as well. Manuel Solomon had a good season at Fulham, right?
He was really good. I own his rare card. I think he scored something like 5 straight games to them, or something crazy at one little stretch.
Probably this little patch up here.
Yeah, he went off the boil. Went off the boil a little bit and started being a sub for them. He
did have a good patch here. Yeah, he plays for Israel.
He plays for Israel. He's a very good technical player. I think something he suffered from for Fulham and in general in the Premier League is he's very small and
he's a very tiny man.
I guess just quite weak maybe, and he doesn't really offer anything defensively. So it's quite rare to have sort of midfielders, left midfielders, right midfielders now that are just pure attacking players. Like everyone seems to want players that can do a bit of both now, don't they? So I don't know. I don't think he's going to play much for Spurs personally. What with
could be an off the bench kind of guy, wouldn't he?
He's going to be off the bench. What with Kulusevski, Son, Kane, Richarlison's still there, although he might leave, and then you got a good few players there. So be interested.
Yeah. I really like Pedro Porro at the back. I think depending on how Poch wants to play, he started putting up some good attacking involvement at the end of last season. So
very attacking defender, isn't he? I think his defensive capability is a little bit sus, but sometimes it doesn't really matter if he's scoring a goal and an assist or whatever. So
another year of under 23 as well. I think he could be sneaky good, but a lot depends on how Spurs start under Poch, right? And whether they're struggling again or they can push back up towards those European positions. But I do like a bit of Porro. I think Maddison would be straight in for me as a Sorare stack. Højbjerg has always been really good for the Matrix, hasn't he? Weirdly, really well suited to Sorare. And then you're probably going to want... Well, Harry Kane's obviously the definite, but you have to pay a fair whack to get that in. And I want to say Son didn't have the best season last year, did he? But
he had an awful season. And, you'd like I say you'd like to think. I mean, I support Everton, so I hope he does awful. But like, you'd think he'd have a great bounce back season. But obviously, there's the up in the air about Harry Kane at the moment. I don't think he'll leave, but there's always rumours about him every summer, isn't there? But it feels like something is happening this summer a little bit with like Bayern Munich coming in, and I don't know. We'll see.
I'd cash in if I was them. I'm not going to let 100 million walk out the door for free next year.
Even if it is Harry Kane. But I don't know. Do you think he wants to leave? Do you think he wants to break the Premier League record?
I think he wants to leave, but I think he wants to leave to another Premier League team, which I don't think he'll be allowed to do. I don't think he wants to go to Bayern, but I don't think Livy wants to sell him.
I mean, who's he going to go to? The only team he can go to is United. Like, he's not going to go to Man City. Obviously, he's not going to play, or he won't play.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect signing for United. But they'll quote United such an impossibly high amount for a player that's out of contract next year.
True.
Is it worth it to bank and make sure you can't go anywhere else? But I don't think you pay that much money. Not when they're going for a takeover anyway. Richarlison, Brazil's number 9 as well, down there. The forgotten man.
Yeah.
Bounce back.
Come back, Richarlison, please, Lord.
Right, 2 teams left. Hour and a half in.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while, eh? We thought it'd be short, this one. So next one is West Ham. They've signed Sean Moore from Cliftonville. Don't know anything about him, obviously, because he's from Cliftonville. They've not signed anyone else. And Ginny's decided to start making little noises, which is annoying.
Sean Moore from Cliftonville? No,
but yeah, I don't. They've much like Everton, they get linked with everyone. West Ham, so I'm sure they'll make a couple of signings in the next month or so. But yeah,
uncertainty over the goalies. Who's going to play?
Well, I think
was number 1.
I think their whole transfer window is going to be defined by as soon as they sell Declan Rice, they're going to have £100 million. So, you could see a flurry of activity. They've obviously qualified for the Europa League now next season by winning the Conference League. So, they're going to have some big games next year. They're going to need a good squad, and they're selling their best player. So, they've got Trevor Brook in there. They'll get him in. Yeah,
get him in. Great stats. I'd love one of those in my SO5. For a team that did really well last year, won a European Cup. Well, they finished the season well. Let's put it that way. Moisey was in trouble in the middle of the season, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
You can't really rely on the goalie there. There's nothing there that strikes me out in defence. Trevor Brookin is probably going to be quite hard to get hold of. No Rice. Paqueta ended the season well, but nothing massively sticks out at me there. I own a Jared Bowen, but those stats again aren't peaky. Nothing there I really want to get hold of.
It looks a bit dodgy now. Now you look at it, it looks really dodgy, doesn't it? Especially as the 2 best players are Declan Rice, who now plays for Arsenal, and Trevor Brookin, who's about 86. So,
I think you're like you said, it'd be how they spend that Rice money. Some of these players are quite good to look at in real life, but it's obviously not correlating to Sorare. And apart from the promoted teams, that looks like the worst thing we've looked at so far in terms of trying to find a 5-man stack. I would be avoiding West Ham.
There we go.
Thank you, West Ham, for being nice and short.
So last team, we finally got to the end of our 20-team extravaganza. We've got Wolves, who have bought Boubacar Traore, who I think was someone they might have potentially had on loan last season anyway. Tom King from Northampton Town. I think obviously the major thing with Wolves is that they sold Ruben Neves for a massive lump sum. I don't know much about Boubacar Traore. I'm not sure he played too much last season.
No, he's only 21, so maybe he's a prospect in some way. He's very cheap, but his stats last season are not there because he was DMP.
One thing I do know with Wolves, I work with a Wolves fan, is that they are crippled by financial difficulties at the moment. So even though they've sold almost £80 million worth of players there, I don't think they're going to be spending too heavily in this window. Maybe 1 or 2 more players, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of ins coming in now.
I do worry for them in terms of they feel like they're aiming down rather than they're not aiming up.
I think you got Jose Sar's a good option. I think he's pretty nailed to be the number one. I know obviously Bentley ended the season, which was a bit of a weird one.
Bristol City legend Dan Bentley.
But yeah, they've got Kilman, who's a good player, but I've seen he's got heavily linked with is it Lazio or Napoli?
Yeah, got some big links abroad.
Really random. And then obviously they've sold Nathan Collins, which we've already talked about. They've got a decent amount of players there, but I think a lot of players are moving on. I think Johnny is moving on, been released. You've got Moutinho's moving on. Neves has been sold. So you've got Connor Cody's finally left to go to Leicester. I know he's obviously at loan to Everton last year. Traore's been released. So I think it's going to be a bit of a transition for Wolves. I think Raul Jimenez as well is leaving on a free. So it's going to be big changes for them this season. You've got Jesse's love child, Mari Lamina, still there. So
Pedro Neto is a good one. I thought Wolves was a bad set of stats to look at, and then I've just scrolled through this Wolves setup, which looks.
Hey, there's some bad teams. There's some bad squads in the Prem right now.
Really, really bad. From a Sorare point of view, that Wolverhampton team is as bad as we looked at any point.
I mean, they could be one of the favourites to go down as well. I mean, Wolves. I'm pot kettle black at the moment. Everton have been awful last 2 seasons, but Wolves historically, before they've been in the Prem now, have been a very yo-yo team, haven't they? Come up for 1 year, gone down, come up, gone down, always. And for me, what's epitomised their being in the Premier League for the last 5 years has been Ruben Neves. He's been their key guy. They fucking love him. He's gone now, so I'm really interested to see how that's going to go next year. And yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. All 20 teams done in the very short span of an hour and 40 minutes. Wow. What I will quickly do is we are in the Beat the Boys League Season 5, Week 1 of 4. I finished 13th this week. The leader is Howie C, 76. I'm not sure where you come, mate. Where's you appear on here?
I think I'm about 30th. I got 311, but I had a DMP, so I got 311 from 4 players, which is pretty frustrating. Or maybe I'm even further down.
Yeah, 45th.
45th. I do know, however, as you also know, that the third member of Sorare Thursday Club has forgotten to do his team whilst on holiday in Spain. So he is sat down in joint last. So that makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah, it was actually quite a good week for me, but I didn't play Wagner because I was worried that he wouldn't be back in the team, and he got a 72, so that would have had me right up there. But that is week 1 done. There's only 4 weeks. Top 6 win prizes.
Yeah.
League is still open. We will close it at deadline of the next game week, and that'll be it. If you're not in, you can't win any prizes. There is the league code if you want it, and yeah, that's enough from us. We've gone really long. Turns out when you've got to talk about 20 teams and all the players they get in, it's going to take quite a while. Probably didn't need to do a news section at the start of the.
No, you probably didn't, did we? I feel knackered now from doing all that, but yeah, it was good fun though.
All right, pleasure. Pleasure has always been in your company. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do that because it'll make our weekends extra special. And we will see you all next Tuesday for another live show. For now, we're out. Viva la Thursday Club.
Up the Toffees.